The Dharma, incomparably profound and exquisite, is rarely met with even in hundreds of thousands of millions of kalpas. We now can see it, hear it, accept and hold it. May we realize the true mind of the Tathagata. Today is day 2 of this January 2026 session at Mountain Gate in January. And as you heard yesterday, it's our first session of the new year. A wonderful new start. And it is starting well. There's a scroll at Hidden Valley Zen Center, Yukokuji Sogenji, that reads, though the 8 winds may blow, it is not disturbed. Though the 8 winds may blow, it is not disturbed. What is this it that is never disturbed? Is profoundly okay regardless of circumstances. It cannot be found through intellect. Yet we continue to try to find it through our thoughts, through our ideas, through thinking about it. Because we are trained to do that. From early ages, we're trained to read, we're trained to solve problems by researching words. And so, unless you've grown up in an unusual environment, an unusual situation, you're very much conditioned to use thoughts and ideas and words to try to find this mysterious it. But the Tibetan master, Tibetan Buddhist master, Longchenpa, many centuries ago, gave us a different way to do it. And it is incredibly effective. Let me read it. Let me try to read it with my wonderful eyesight. Oh dear, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can start it. Though attachment, aversion, dullness, pride, and envy may arise, recognize their energy. You can start from the beginning again.
Though attachment, aversion, dullness, pride, and envy may arise, fully understand their inner energy. Recognize them in the very first moment before karma has been accumulated.
Okay, let's stop there. Tune in. Tune into the energy in your body.
In the second moment, look nakedly at this state and relax in its presence.
In other words, stay tuned in. Don't try to analyze. Don't try to avoid. Just explore, feel, experience.
Then whichever of the 5 passions, lust, anger, stupidity, arrogance, and jealousy arise, becomes a pure presence, freed in its own place, without being eliminated.
Did you hear that? When we tune in, the bite, the need to get away from it, that feeling has been relaxed and disappears. And then the energy becomes pure and not negative, not anxiety producing.
It emerges as the pristine awareness that is pure, pleasurable, and not conditioned by thought.
Let's read that again. Thank you. From the very beginning.
Okay. Though attachment, aversion, dullness, pride, and envy may arise, fully understand their inner energy. Recognize them in the very first moment before karma has been accumulated. In the second moment, look nakedly at this state and relax in its presence. Then, whichever of the 5 passions, lust, anger, stupidity, arrogance, and jealousy arise, becomes a purer presence, freed in its own place, without being eliminated. It emerges as the pristine awareness that is pure, pleasurable, and not conditioned by thought.
So something starts to come up in our body, and we can either do what we're usually conditioned to, which is to kind of shove it away, go up into our heads and say, oh, I'm angry, or I don't like this person, or whatever, you name it. But if instead we tune into that energy, not the idea, not the feeling, the energy, the inner energy that would ordinarily become anger or any of those other challenging emotions, and we just stay present, as it says, look nakedly at this state. No thoughts, just curiosity. What does it really feel like? Then it doesn't have to be gotten rid of. The discomfort that started to come up is gone. Fast forward from the 9th century to Chicago in the 20th century. At the University of Chicago, there was a man named Eugene Gendlin. He was actually a philosopher, but he hung out in the psychology arena there. And at one point, he and another psychologist decided that it would be helpful to find out why some people in therapy are able to very quickly move on from where they're caught, whereas others stay caught for sometimes 10 years, 20 years. What was the difference? And they quickly found out. Within 3 days, I think they found out what the challenge was, or what the result was. And that was that the people who were able to move on quickly were able to tune into their bodies. So when something would come up that was a challenge, they would instead look inwardly and feel, and do exactly what Longchenpa was talking about. And it made all the difference in the world. As a result of that, Gendlin wrote a book called Focusing, which has been on the market since the late 1970s and is still available in a small paperback. And much more recently, I don't know exactly when, but a foundation was established called the Focusing Foundation. It's a tremendous resource. It offers courses in how to focus if you're having trouble doing it just from reading the book. It offers inspiration. It offers connections to therapists who use that method to help their people that they work with. It's quite worth exploring. All you have to do is Google Focusing Foundation, I believe, and it should come up. And like I said, you'll have all manner of resources to work with to inspire you. This is what makes the difference between staying stuck in our practice, even if we're not doing psychology work, but staying stuck in our practice, not moving forward, still hammering at the same thing. Moo, 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 moo. Who am I? Who am I? Was my face before my parents were born? And as long as we do that, intellectually with words, it's not going to go very far. There is, it appears to me, a disconnect between the intellect and what can bring us to awakening. So it's important when you get to a point where you feel kind of stuck. And usually what happens as we start Zen practice, meditation practice of any sort, we start trying to find the answer to what we're looking for through thought. If we're lucky enough to have learned to tune in as a small child and not to lose that ability or that focus, because we can get it back, then we'll have a much easier way to go forward. But trauma here raises this ugly head, and we are so often, when we've been traumatized, we kind of hold ourselves very tight. It's as if we put on an invisible layer of armor. We limit our access to the rest of the world. We don't want to be hurt again. And so when that is part of our history, it makes it much harder to tune in, to follow Longchenpa's advice or to follow Eugene Genlin's advice, which is really the same thing. In which case, as you begin to realize that you're stuck, and it's almost impossible, if not impossible, to tune into your body, because when people have been traumatized, that's the last thing they want to do. The body is where the pain is stored, the pain of memory, the pain of fear, and we don't want to go there. So the best advice is to engage the services of a highly regarded, effective trauma therapist and begin to work through that. And as you do that, your zazen will begin to advance. Now, there's a big mountain to climb also as part of that process, as I know myself. And if initially it might be difficult to continue the zazen, but you keep doing and you keep tuning in to what Genlin termed the felt sense. And as long as you keep tuning into that, and there doesn't have to be anything that you're tuning into. This is something that people don't realize. When I was first working with this felt sense, right after I had read Genlin's book, I just was blank. And so what I had to do was just write down, because I tuned in and there was nothing but blankness. And I journaled this. I wrote down, there's just a feeling of amorphous grayness, of blankness. And when I did that, and here's something that is very important to recognize, it changed. It changed into something else. But the reason why it did is because I was writing it down with a pencil or a pen. And it was shown decades ago that when people tune in to their energy and describe the energy, writing it down by hand, it doesn't work if you do it into a computer or voice it into a recorder. You have to do it by hand, because the connection with the hand movement, which requires presence, and the feeling, the sensation, is critical, particularly when it gets to trauma, because it keeps us anchored, this handwriting. And if we don't take care with that, we may get swept away by flashbacks. So this is probably the most important piece of information any new Zen student, or any older Zen student for that matter, can receive, because it is especially effective. In my experience, you can't really do the practice without sinking in. And I was recently communicating with an old Zen friend who said to me that he was really having a hard time with Mu. That was his koan. And so he went into Doksan with Roshi Kaplo and said, "Can I just sink into Mu?" And Roshi looked at him and said, "Go ahead." And very soon after that, he had an insight. Sinking in, feeling your way down through the felt sense and then beyond. This is how to practice. So this is very short, but I thank you for listening, and we'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.